Okay, hello again, everyone. Let's talk about some more kinds of words, building blocks to make up sentences. The next one to look at, from where we left off last time, are verbs. And, the simplest way to put this is a doing word. It is the action. If you need to say what you were doing, you pick a verb. If you're making a cake, you are baking. That's what you're doing. If you are walking quite quickly, you might be jogging, you might be running. These are doing words. They indicate the action that is being undertaken. And to properly use them in a sentence, we need to understand this. We need to. Hang on, have I? Okay, no, I haven't. Okay. Can I have that bigger, please? There we go. Right. Conjugations. We need to understand how conjugations work. Now, to conjugate, Conjugate, is to alter the ending of a verb to fit the subject of the sentence, the person doing, performing the action. We see here that the example sentence in the book is the wolf blew the house down. Now, the verb in question here is to blow. To blow. Now, the conjugations of to blow, and you can do this with all verbs, and we all know them. It's just a conjugation is a fancy word for it. To blow will be I blow, you blow, he, she, it blows. This is in the present tense. Tense is down there. We'll get onto in a second. And then you have what else have we got? The next bit is you plural. You plural. So a group of people. You guys. You blow, or they blow. Now this is in the past tense. The wolf blew the house down in the past. He's already done it. Blow is still the verb here. It's still the action. And the past tense conjugation are I blew, you blew, he, she, it blew. It's probably all the same. You blew, they blew. Yes. So it's important to understand which ending is the right one for the verb. The most basic one of the most basic ones, is the verb to be. And we use it all the time because it's I am doing this. It's there's a fancy word for the kind of verb, but let's just say it's very important to be the verb. It is I am, you are, see it's different conjugation. He, she, it is. You guys, you plural, are, they are. So we see how that changes depending on who the subject of the sentence is. So it's important to know what ending is the right one, otherwise our sentences won't make sense. What else should we talk about? Let me very quickly mention this. When I talk about the verb to be, what I am doing is mentioning the verb in its infinitive form. A verb in the infinitive is before you've done anything to it. It's how you'll find it in a dictionary. If you want to look up, what's the word for talking about, like how do I say that I'm existing or whatever? To be, I am doing something. It is the infinitive, to be. To blow, before I've conjugated it. Before I'm not saying I blow, it's untouched. It's just to blow is the infinitive. It will very often be to and then the verb. To do something, to blow, to bake, to walk, to run, to be, to want, to need. All of these things, before you've altered how the verb sounds, before you've conjugated it, changed the ending of it, it's in its infinitive form. Okay? So, tenses. Let's have a quick talk about tenses. So you see your three tenses in their most simple form there. Future, something that you're going to do, right? Something that will happen. Commonly will happen. Present is, something is happening. Let me. So, here's the key bit. Will. I'm underlining this here. Will. That's how you know it's future. Is. Underlining this bit here. That's how you know it's present. The boy ate his lunch. Ate. This is a past version of the verb. Now, there is a way, because this is a completely different understanding of the verb. Eat becomes ate in the past tense. And a way to understand that, there's a word for that, when a verb changes. And it's this, two words. The past participle. The past participle of a verb is what it looks like when it becomes past tense. Eat changes to ate. The most common version, eat is a bit of a weird one. The most common version looks like that. So, walk is present. I walk to the shops. If I want to say that I did do it, I did it earlier today, I would say I walked to the shops. You see how the past participle version of walk ends in ed. The most common versions of a past participle, a past tense version of a verb, end in ed. Otherwise, if we're not using a past participle, we're not focusing on that, you can tell something's in the past tense by use of the words like was. I was doing this, or I did do this. It's already happened. I was doing it, I'm not doing it anymore. I did do it, it stopped. We're in the present tense now, it's not happening anymore, which means it did happen. It used to happen. Was or did. Let me put those words down. Those are your keys for the past tense. Was or did. Let's very quickly talk about something here. In the simple future, it's a kind of future tense. Where have we got space for it? I'm just going to put this here. Simple future, without the 3 on the end. Simple future. So the simple future tense, don't know why it's called that, maybe because it's the simplest kind, I didn't decide, often uses 2 words, 2 common choices of words. Will and shall. I will do this, I shall do this. This is your simple future tense. It's the easiest way, perhaps, to form a future tense. We see it here, up here. You know, we spoke about this, we underlined it, the word will. The boy will eat his lunch. This is, to be more specific, not just future tense, it's the simple future tense. Now, these verbs here, will and shall, or in a different version, would and should, this is not necessarily stuff you need to know, it's just you might find it interesting, it might help you. We call these verbs modal verbs. Now, modal verbs are verbs that often rely on, they're to do with possibility. Something could happen. There's another one. It's to do with intent. You want to go and do something, and it's possible that it could happen. So, the modal verbs are as follows. So, we have, I've written them down so I get them right. You can do something, aka, I could do something. You have, I may you go to the toilet? I may go to the toilet. I might go to the toilet. Thirdly, I shall go to the toilet. If you really need the toilet, you should go to the toilet. You see how these are all about possibility. Something could happen with the intent, the intention to do it. I will go to the toilet. I really need it. I will go to the toilet. If you let me, I would go to the toilet. And you know what? It's so bad, and this one doesn't have another version. It's so bad. I'm so desperate that I must. I must go to the toilet. These are your modal verbs. So let's very quickly just recap everything here because there's quite a bit going on. So verbs, doing words, actions. The conjugation of the verb is how we alter the way the word looks and the way we say the word to fit the subject. I am, you are, he, she, it is, etc. The infinitive is how you'll find a verb in the dictionary. It will normally be to be, or to want, or to walk. That's the infinitive form. It hasn't been conjugated. It's untouched. You've got your 3 basic tenses here. The future tense, often characterized by, for instance, having will in there. Present tense, often characterized by having is. And the past tense, often characterized by having was or did. When a verb changes how it looks for the past tense, we say that this verb is now in a different form. It's in the past participle. You get some rare verbs like eat which change how they look completely. This becomes ate. But the most common version is a verb that adds ed or sometimes just d to the end. Blue is an interesting one again because it doesn't add ed or d to the end. The past participle of blow is blew, but say if I, what's quite a simple version, climb. If I have already done a climb up a mountain, I climbed it, has ed on the end. When we talk about future and it has will in it, as an example, this is the simple future. If we want to be more specific, this is the simple future tense. This is often characterized by having I will. Look at the sentence here. The boy will eat his lunch. Alternatively, the boy shall eat his lunch. He's going to, but in a bit, right? Otherwise, you can say the boy would eat his lunch and the boy should eat his lunch. It's still referring to the future. Now, will and shall, or would and should, are modal verbs. What modal means is it's about the possibility of something happening. In that you can do something if you want to, you could do it if you had the option. I may do something if I want to, I might do it if I have the option. I shall do something, I should do something, I will, I would, I must do something. Another interesting thing about modal verbs I forgot to mention is when we go back up here and we look at this word conjugations, remember we've spoken about that. That's the way that verbs end, I am, you are, the way they change depending on who the subject is. Say these to yourself, notice something. I can, you can, he, she, it can, you plural, you guys can, they can. That's a bit weird. I may, you may, he, she, it may, they may, we may, that's another important one. Completely forgot about we. That's an important one. We may, and they may. That's interesting. Well, does it work with the other bits as well? I should, you should, he, she, it should, they should, we should, you plural, should. They don't change. When you conjugate them, they do not change, which is an interesting thing to note. These verbs here, the ones along the bottom there that I've written out, they don't change when you conjugate them, at least they shouldn't. And don't forget as well that they work in a negative sense as well. I cannot, I can't, I couldn't, I may not, you may not, he, she, it may not. We would not, they would not, you plural must not. They stay the same throughout. Negative or not. So, we've got some questions here. What these questions are asking you to do is identify the verbs in the following sentences. What are the doing words in these sentences? So feel free to pause the video here, just have a little look, have a go at them. And then once you've done that, there are just, surprise, you got a few more just here, so feel free to pause the video again. And we will look at the answers to them in a second. Let's talk about what's next on our list. Well, this is what's next on our list. Adverbs. Now, say the word adverb to yourself. This is something I'm trying to teach in the face-to-face tuition sessions we have, is that if you are faced with a word you don't understand, it's quite easy to break it down, and this will help you if you recognise the sounds that make up the word. For example, let's draw a line here. You see where I've drawn the line there, the blue? Right, you've got add and verb. Now, we've spoken about some kinds of words already. What kinds of words can you make up of add and verbs? Well, verbs, that's quite obvious, isn't it? It sounds like verbs. Add, adjective. It's an adjective of a verb. It is a description of a verb. It says how you do something. You see the example there? Max, he doesn't just eat his dinner. That's quite a boring sentence. Max quickly eats his dinner. We've got more description there. Adverbs, crucial for creative writing, crucial for description, for making a story interesting. It shows you how something is done. Not just that it happens, but how it's done. They often end, as it says there, in ly. As an example, quickly, I slowly ate if it's in the past tense. My dinner, remember ate being the past participle. I sloppily, I messily ate my dinner. Future tense, simple future. I will eat my dinner tiredly because I've had a very long day. There you go. You've got some explanation down there of that they describe how it's done, when it's done, where it might be done. You see how when we are doing how, that's when your words end in ly commonly. Um, when and where, these are different. When is a time phrase, yesterday, soon. Or it can be frequency as well. It doesn't have to be a set time. It can be that instead of saying, "Oh, I eat my dinner every night," you could say, "I eat my dinner often." Where a verb is cross the road, so the crossing of the road happens outside. The opposite is inside, of course. That was only the only other example I could think of. But it's just about making the action more interesting. Right, these questions are similar to your ones about verbs. You have to identify which word in each example is the adverb. So have a look at them. Pause the video. Have a look at them. Again, we'll get to the answers at the end. We've just got one more kind of word to talk about after this today. And then when you've done that, another surprise, you've got a few more to do. And once you've done them, let's look at the final kind of word today, the pronoun. So, you know how we spoke about conjugations earlier? Let me find the word for you. This word just here, conjugations. I do something, you do something, he, she, it does, it changes there, does something. We do something, you plural do something, they do something. The I, you, he, she, it, sometimes one does something, if you're speaking quite formally. We, they, you plural, these are pronouns. They substitute out for the proper noun, right? So the example here is, we know Max is a cat. He's a trustworthy cat, trustworthy being an adjective. Max is a trustworthy cat. So we know what Max is, that's a noun, he's a cat. He is a pronoun. It replaces the word cat or his name. It replaces both of them. Because we know what it's referring to. This is an important rule. This is an important rule. I'll use these big words, but I will explain them. We're going to talk about this one. You don't need to know these necessarily, so don't worry. What word am I looking for? This one. We're getting into sort of quite sophisticated understanding of the English language here, so don't worry too much. Just know the rule, basically. You don't need to know the words, unless you want to. So, anaphora is repetition. It's another word for repetition. The way that pronouns work is through anaphora, is through repetition. In that you get Max at the start, or cat at the start, Max the cat at the start, that's your noun. Then you get a repetition of he afterwards, right? You get anaphora afterwards. That's how pronouns work. The only other thing you need to know about how they work is the antecedent. In that, if you say Max the cat, Max is one, for example. He's one cat, he's on his own, he's a singular noun. It does not make sense to, after that point, use the pronoun we or they to talk about Max, because he is just one. You cannot talk about Max the cat as if it is a group, because it is just one. If you have the little boy as a noun, you cannot then talk about she, referring to the little boy, because it doesn't make sense. The correct pronoun, the correct choice of pronoun relies on the antecedent. What that means is it relies on what the noun is initially. You have to match up the noun with the pronoun, otherwise your sentences will be confusing, they will not make sense. Okay? Good. So, What other notes have I made? So it's important to remember, just very quickly, that we can get, I know I've said this a few times, but you can get you, singular. I'm delivering this video to you right now, but you can also get you, plural, in that I'm delivering to this video to you, all of you watching. You all. Y'all, if you're from America, maybe. So you can get a singular you and a plural you. It's important not to get confused between the two. Now, there are two very interesting kinds of pronoun, and you often get this when you're studying other languages. You'll encounter this as well. I'll put these words here, but again, this is advanced English. We'll talk about it. Don't worry necessarily about understanding what the words themselves mean. So, I think that's how you spell that word, right? So you get neuter nouns and epicene nouns. Now, when we have nouns, traditionally, in how we understand grammar in the English language, you get feminine and masculine nouns. Feminine being she, masculine being he, so on and so forth. And then you get also singular and plural. I, you, and then also they, and we. Neuter goes beyond gender. It's genderless, you might say. The neuter noun, the neuter pronoun, is it. Doesn't have a gender. Just it. A thing. It's a thing, right? That's all you need to know. You don't really need to know the word neuter. Just know that it is genderless, right? What an epicene is something that, it's not that it is genderless, it's that it can be either gender. So very often, the word one, when we're talking formally, or them. Them can refer to either gender, and one can refer to either gender, because it's not he or she, basically. This is all you need to know. Basically, you don't need to know the words neuter and epicene, but understand that it is genderless, and when you use one and them to be pronouns, it can refer to either gender. It, genderless, one or them, either gender. Good? Okay. Excellent. So, feel free to pause that, listen back to that. Don't get confused in the words I've used. I'm just using the technical terms. Just be familiar with the rules, right? For instance, just be familiar with that when we say Max is a cat. So the sentence would not make sense if we said Max is a trustworthy cat. We is always chasing away mice. That's what I meant when I was talking about this stuff. The pronoun you use here, he, has to make sense with Max and cat. Okay? And then this is just me explaining that it is genderless and one / them can be both genders. Whereas he or she has to be one or the other. So, pronouns. Have a look at these questions. It's asking you to identify the pronouns and to select what the appropriate pronoun to use is. Remember, we've talked about antecedent. We've just spoke about it. What the noun is initially has to match what the pronoun is afterwards. Otherwise, it won't make sense. For instance, Sarah and Emily. Well, I'll help you with the first one. To say Sarah and Emily, it can't be we or us. It doesn't make sense. Because whilst it is two people, we and us implies that we are involved, and we're not. It's just Sarah and Emily. She is singular. Sarah and Emily are two people. There's only one option left. Now, they can be a group, and remember, they can also refer to either gender. So they works there. That should be the answer for the first one. So pause this, have a look at these. And then when you have done that, just a few more here. So pause the video here, have a look. Let's just get your bottom answer in there. And then once you've done that, let's have a very long scroll down. In fact, let me drag this so we can have a look at your answers for this section. I hope you have enjoyed this bit. I hope you've understood everything okay. If you have any questions, get in touch with one of us. Talk to one of us in an actual session. I just need the pages to load, ideally. That would be wonderful. There you go. Okay, so you got your verbs down there. Those are the answers to your verb questions. So pause the video, make sure you've got the answers right. Make sure you understand why you've got it wrong if you haven't. And then those are your adverbs and your pronoun answers just there. Have a look through them. And we will have a chat in a bit. I hope you've enjoyed this session. See you soon.